Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief, where we invest with fighter pilot precision on a daily basis. Have a great show for you today, where we're going to talk about the Roblox Direct Listing that's coming up. Again, still no date for it, but we do want to be ready for it. So things we're going to talk about is how much money you should put in, how to execute the open. I'll compare it to how we executed the direct listing opening. I did this as a premiere on YouTube last time with Palantir, as well as Asana was the same day. So we're going to talk in our question today, we're going to talk about what is the difference between an IPO and a direct listing, so you can understand not only what the differences are, but how to participate in that. So really good show for you today. Also, on a sad note, today was the 1-year anniversary of losing Kobe last year. So I'll talk briefly about, where I was and the feelings I had at the time, because he's an icon of mine. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. If you're watching us on a replay, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe, click the notification bell. And if you want to join us live in the room, we have a chat window and a Q&A window, which you don't see on the screen, but that's how my folks communicate with me. You can ask me anything you want during the 35 minutes that we are in the show. With that, let's go ahead and get today's show started. All right, welcome back to the morning brief. Make sure you have your Q&A window and your chat window set up with your call sign in there as well. A standard disclaimer applies. This is a financial education presentation, so you have to do your own due diligence for acting upon anything you hear in this briefing. Full disclaimer information is available on the OTOT website. All right, our mission objectives for today: we're going to grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Specifically, we're talking about growing our money through the direct listing of Roblox. So again, the child gaming we were talking about in the room for a couple days, but if you're catching this for the first time, the kids gaming thing, very similar to the idea of when we moved into 10-cent holdings, which a squatter member talked about yesterday. From when Fortnite came out, same thing. This is now Roblox is doing a direct listing. If you have kids under the age of 10, you're for sure familiar with this company and how they make money, but they're going to do a direct listing, which is a little different from the IPO. So we'll talk about that. The question of the day will be the difference between the IPO and the direct listing. We've covered this a few times, but this is important just to cover one more time so people understand exactly what's going on and how they can participate. Because if you're not ready at the open, it's kind of like missing the IPO. So you have to be ready and your order in ahead of time, and I'll talk specifically to that. All right, as far as our flow today, we're going to be long, short, open, short, long, which means we're going to talk long-term investing stuff with a market review of where we've been. We're going to come back to the headlines. As I mentioned, the open, we'll talk about Kobe a year ago today. Pretty sad. Do you know the final NTSB report is not out yet? It's scheduled to be out February 8th, a little over a year later. Crazy. Don't miss the aviation world from that perspective. Long-term, all of us knew what happened that morning from listening to the tapes that are online. Anyway, long-term investments, we're going to talk about both Palantir and Asana, not from their investing perspective. We're going to look at exactly how they opened on the day that they started trading with their direct listing, and then look at like the first 10 days. And the reason we're doing that is to be able to now set the expectations for what's going to happen for the Roblox direct listing when it comes out, so you can know what I'm thinking if I'm managing your money, or if you're doing it on your own, kind of, so you're not surprised by this pattern. It just doesn't open and go straight to the moon. It could, but neither of these did, and they're doing just fine, months later. We'll get in the short-term execution. If you see in the chat room, we have turned 4 longs. J&J also put that in there for a long. That's more of a long-term trade than a day trade, but I do think it moves higher, and it moves higher quickly this morning. You see 3 longs and 2 shorts in the room. I don't like either of the 2 shorts. I just put those in there because there's something, if you want to go short, you can. But I'm all set up for the 3 longs over on the trading screen. For contingencies this morning, if you have tech support issues or you need more academics, go to ototnow.com. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at CD Ameritrade Think Pipes. Again, we always start with the long-term view and the S&P 500, which is this chart. So we can keep a look at where we've been. Well, straight line up, keeps powering higher, and markets hitting new highs, keep hitting new highs. That has happened several times now. So it might take a big negative headline to be able to bring the market down. I think when it does turn south, it might turn south pretty heavy, meaning selling off. But barring that headline, the vaccines are rolling out okay. J&J's got some good news today on a potential 1-dose non-refrigerated vaccine that's coming out to the tune of 1 billion doses. Not approved yet, but if that rolls out pretty quick, Kramer was talking this morning about a glut, right? A second quarter glut of vaccine where we just have too much of it. Put it in the landfills with the ventilators and the N95 masks, which that hasn't happened yet, but it could certainly. We shall see. Hopefully that would mean we beat this thing, so that'd be kind of nice. All right, focus in a little bit on the last 5 days. Again, the S&P 500 last week kind of went higher. This week, or excuse me, right here was yesterday. So you did have the big sell-off yesterday, which was kind of crazy. There is a group out there called the Wall Street Bets on Reddit that, if you've been watching the GameStop deal about how much that stock has jumped all over the map, we'll pull up the ticker here because it's kind of interesting. Well, this is a stock that in a day, 2 days has gone from 40, touched 159, back to 60. I mean, you look at, there's plenty of people making money in this, and there's plenty of people losing, right? And there's the same number, not number of people, number of dollars, because trading is a zero-sum game. So kind of crazy what's going on. Well, Wall Street Bets is the Reddit page that's kind of causing that. I'll check it out. I may do a piece on them as well, but don't know why it's not bringing the SPY 5-day up, but that's okay. We will move on out of that. My point is everything's in the green this morning. I do anticipate going long. I have our 3 longs set up here. All right, let's go to the headline review and take a look around the world on Google Chrome. You can see there the stock futures are in the green. Let's go ahead and take a look at Europe. In the green across the board, pretty heavy, at least 1% or so. That's probably keeping us in the green. Asia in the red across the board. That's pretty heavy, 2.5% in Hong Kong. Here's our numbers from yesterday. Again, kind of tech-led. Apple up again, Palantir up again, Luckin up again. Haven't looked at Luckin this morning. I was kind of surprised myself. Not much going on in the bond world. Yellen was confirmed as the Treasury Secretary, and she started talking about increasing taxes. I was like, whoa, wait. Treasury Secretary openly talking about increasing taxes. It's kind of I'm not sure we've seen that before, or at least I haven't seen it before. So interesting if she starts talking regularly about increasing taxes. Let's see, commodities up across the board, precious metals up, and checking Bitcoin down to 31.5. All right. Let's go back to the headlines. Beyond Meat partnering with PepsiCo. I saw this morning. That's kind of exciting for plant-based drinks and snacks. So again, if you like to watch, or if you're watching your Netflix and eating some snacks, plant-based snacks could be in your future. Okay, GameStop. Here's the mania. This again is we'll see if there's it's the Wall Street Bets, the Reddit page, where I guess a bunch of traders are flooding to that and all making the same bet, which is moving the market. Okay, I wondered if this was happening. I talked to a friend the other day. We're trying to get to Mexico, and if you come back from Mexico, you have a test. You have to have a test within 3 days re-entering the country. Well, we wondered if there's going to be little airport shops popping up, little testing facilities popping up right outside the airport. I guess the resorts have them, which only makes sense because there's going to be high demand for that. part of your checkout procedure, probably. Okay, let's see. Trump impeachment going on. DraftKings, yep, calling for that higher. It's up nicely this morning. All right, that is it that we're going to talk about for the headlines. Let's go over to the direct listing. And again, the point of showing the Palantir chart here. So you don't know the direct listing, and this again is tying this to Roblox and what's going to happen. Again, anything could happen, but let's talk about what happened with Palantir. Is that it? $10 was the exact price. So again, I put a limit order up to 20 that I was willing to pay. I won't pad it by that much with Roblox, but I was willing to with Palantir because I had a feeling that this would happen, right? You know, it would get north of 20 pretty quick. Well, I was wrong in the short term. So look at how this opened with as much hype as there was. And I could see Roblox doing the same thing. With as much hype as there was, I bought early in the day. Again, I was live on Facebook or live on YouTube and a premiere. I'm talking through this with a bunch of people I don't know, which is kind of fun. You know, you show up and people show up in your chat room. I didn't know I was going to do it. I would have told the room, but I was like, oh, hey, I figured it out kind of real time because I was sitting there staring at the screen. So I kind of tried that. I'll do that again, but I'll publish more information about how to find that and how to follow along if you want to hear me talk through it. Where we're looking at the chart real time, and I'm, basically talking about what I'm doing and thinking. But it opened at 10. So everybody who put this initial order in, you got filled right at 10. So there's a little difference between if you're going to execute this on your own, you want to put that morning when you know it's going to go live. It'll go live around noon Eastern. So adjust that for your time zone. And then it'll slip if there's issues, right? So they determine when it opens. They, in conjunction with the exchange that they're on. But if you have a limit order in, that's going to fill within a microsecond of it being direct listed. And you can think of a big bucket of water. Those are the shares. And then as people buy the shares, they leave the bucket and they go out into the exchange. Unlike an IPO where they're boom all out on the exchange real quick because they've already been allocated out. So here you have a reserve bucket and these things have to feed out. Well, as it feeds out, the stock actually, it went up a little bit, went up to 11. I did another buy that day, but really it closed in the red that day. I did not see that coming. So, you would have been better off to wait. Now you don't know that ahead of time. There's no crystal ball, but just realize that it bounced around from 890 at the low to around 1050, 1060, really for a full month before it got its feet underneath it. So we probably have time there, but I'm going to hop in on Roblox initially with everybody. I'll have an Excel spreadsheet out with the amount you want to put at it. I'll have your initial buy. And then after the initial buy, I'll probably do a secondary buy to add on. Because if you tell me $10,000 and I put a limit order for 20 in, well, I can only get you the 500 shares, right? But if those shares execute at $10, that only used half your money. So there's a secondary buy. If I do a secondary buy the same day, it will be a block trade, meaning I look at my spreadsheet, I see how many shares I need to buy, and I just buy it. That averages out to everybody's, the average price. And then I allocate that to your accounts, meaning everybody gets the price. So there's no BS shenanigans about who gets a better price than anybody else, even if we're talking pennies. So it's a really fair system of how that gets allocated out. The difference is if I put a limit order, as soon as it buys, you can see it on your app. If I do a block order and say I buy, $500,000 worth of shares in a block order, you aren't going to say anything because those shares come into Afterburner Financial, and then I turn around, I have till 5 p.m. Eastern to allocate those shares to your account. And until I allocate it, you don't see anything. So a little bit about that. We'll talk more here in a second. Let's just quickly go over to Schwab. We'll take a look at our three longs in this screen. So Palantir is not a long today. GE crushed earnings, so you can see the numbers here. Plenty of 18 million shares, gapping up from 11 to 12%, kind of a new recent high on a great earnings number. BNGO is a genomics. I should probably look up how to say that. If you have a chance, look it up. Say long O or short O in the chat. 1260 up to 1330, plenty of volume, and again, some news there that's on. And the last one is BlackBerry. This one's being manipulated by the Reddit crew this morning. So that's why I want to kind of follow that. They're all taking it long. So 18 to 1942, it's gapping up on really not much. There's a downgrade. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So we're going to follow along. On the short side, KRMD, it's already down out of our range. This is it's got the volume dropped from 513 to 427. They missed earnings, and their CEO is going to transition out. So that's obviously a huge negative story. We'll keep an eye on that. All right, give me a second to set up for the trade. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time On Target play of the day. We are at the market open. There's your opening bell. I've got 3 longs for you. The futures are in the green, so these are 1-minute charts. That's a SPY on the left. We've got GE in the middle left. Middle right is BNGO. And then overall on the way right is far right is BlackBerry. Again, looking for these long if they set up. Most excited about GE. This sell-off over here in BlackBerry, this is a Reddit thing. It's already busted back out. So let's take care of that. I want to put in J&J. I think we're going to see a move up in J&J this morning. Again, they just announced their 1 billion doses of a single shot vaccine that does not need to be stored. So overall, pretty good news. So the market's going higher. GE, I think this is profit taking. So we're going to take a look at GE long. We're looking at either a 10-cent or a 12-cent stop. So low of the day, 11.94. So that'd be 12.04. To the upside would be a 10-cent stop. There's your J&J screaming higher. So again, looking at a 12.04 entry long for, get zoomed in here, entry long for GE with it, which is a 10-cent stop. So we'll have to wait to see if this actually hits it. So being patient, waiting for it to reverse and then go back higher. All right, go in on bingo here. 2nd minute of the day. Man, that's a nice move right there. A little tougher to trade a $170 stock, but you can do it. All right, again, we're waiting on 12.04. I'm making a little mark to myself here so I don't have to refind it. And that's again below the 11.94 low of the day. If GE makes a new low, then we will have to adjust that as required. But if it flips long, again, 12.04 is our entry. Looks like that's about to happen. Get the arrow drawn in here. Again, you're waiting on 12.04. $12.04 with an 11.94 stop. Plenty of volume. And just keep looking at this J&J move higher. Wasn't gonna may buy some of this long there. There the bingo goes higher. It finally did its reversal. So waiting on 12.04. I like these dojis to the bottom. I don't want to take it early. It's got to prove itself north, going up before we can buy into it. But with the other two screaming north, I'd have to imagine GE is going to follow here soon. Okay, get ready for that entry. Oh boy, look at all the volume that just went into that. What is that? 6 million shares just went in this minute. All right, look at that, and they're all selling. So there's going to be 12.04 is for 15 cent, 11.90. That would hold. We can still use 12.04 long. It's a 15-cent stop now, though. All right, get ready for that entry. There it is, 12.04 long. So at the 15-cent stop, again, you're getting down to the lower stop of the day. Nice entry of 11.89 is your lower stop. Again, here's your arrow for long. So 12.04 plus 15, 12.19 is your first R. That was crazy how that went from hardly any volume to 6 million shares. That was crazy. All right, 12.19 is your 1 R point. So we're going to put that drawing in there. Zoom out just a touch. So have our entry point here, 12.04. 12.19 still isn't there at the high of the day, so we are in this trade long for GE. So really it'd have to go up from 10 10% up to about 13% for the exit point, and I like the way this is set up now. Almost like a delayed open there, the way it had such little volume. So kind of crazy. All right, let's take a look at some other things. J&J had the nice move up. So again, you may see this show up in your portfolio if this thing settles out today. We'll take a look at it here in a minute once I'm off air. All right, LNKCY, what's lucking up to 1060? All right, that's not bad. Getting rid of bingo since we're not in at PLTR. See what's going on. PLTR was down a couple percent earlier, so had a nice opening move here up big. So we'll see. I think it does march. Probably gets back to even and marches higher today as well. A lot of money flowing into that name. The reason it popped almost 40% in the past couple days was they announced a demo day, and we talked about that yesterday, so I won't reiterate that. But demo day coming up, there is an actual date associated with that. But that's all the excitement behind the stock. All right, still up 1R in our trade. I'm going to leave this screen. So again, put your lower stop in, and then your upper is 1249 is your exit point. So that's 15 times 3 added to the entry point of 1204. So again, off the chart for GE long. All right, let's take a look around the other names that are out there. Okay, Workhorse is up big because Biden yesterday said, see if I can get that chart to pull up. So there's a 5-day on Workhorse. Again, Workhorse, I was hot on this stock last year. Gosh, as early as we've been in it since, I want to say mid-year, maybe for sure by September. Workhorse, again, was competing for the contract, or a portion of the contract for the U.S. Postal Service. And then Trump came out and put everything on hold for the U.S. Postal Service. So that was, from a Workhorse perspective, not cool, because it made the stock sell off. But the stock's kind of back because Biden has announced that he wants to make the federal fleet, which that to me is probably an amazingly huge number that I might not even be able to understand how many cars that is. If he's talking DOD in addition to, FBI, all the agencies, right? Make those electric vehicles. Well, if that's the case, every electric vehicle company out there is going to get a piece of that, right? And Workhorse is going to be the truck portion of that. So electric vehicles as well as hydrogen vehicles. So anyhow, that's why you're seeing the pop in the name. I wouldn't buy it here, so I wouldn't load up. But if you're in it, you finally got rewarded from there. All right, Clickstream in play a little bit. Raytheon, nice beat in the earnings. I complained yesterday about Raytheon being the stock that never goes higher. Well, hey, they beat earnings and now it's going higher a little bit. So I'm going to take a look at that chart. Might add to some of the Raytheon positions we have. We shall see. DraftKings, again, two things that are being talked about quite a bit are legalized gambling and marijuana as far as the taxation piece. So those really haven't gotten a lot of traction lately, but DraftKings today is in the news because I think it's Friday. Michigan either has their vote or legalized it. Texas is even talking about legalizing sports gambling, which I think from a tax perspective, Texas is late to the game on this because there's a lot of Texans that drive to the borders to hit casinos, which is why there's casinos on almost every border road, it seems, going north and going east. But why not keep that money here in the state? Lucking up nicely. We'll take that. Twitter, I haven't heard from Twitter in a while. There's marijuana. That was the MJ name that we just talked about. Boeing up a little bit. Lockheed Martin also released earnings this morning and they missed pretty bad on the revenue. So that's why you see Raytheon and Boeing up. Lockheed Martin not listed on here. All right, let's take a look at the downside. Bitcoin selling off. PLTR, okay, it was down, almost back to even when we looked at it, so it reversed down. Now it's moved up 40% in 2 days, so selling off 3% is not a concern. 10-cent holdings popped nicely yesterday out in some news, so selling off a little bit. There's the K-Web was up 5%, so that's selling off. GoDaddy, Revive Therapeutics, a lot of new stuff. There's your Lockheed Martin that we talked about down almost 1%. So some stuff in the red, but not really deep in the red. And then of course there's a bunch of stuff that's up 2% plus here. So Workhorse closer to 15. Let's pull that up on the chart. Oh, how's our trade? Boom, we're out of our trade. Went all the way back down and busted through our bottom stop. So that's why you have those set in there, so they can exit for you when you're not staring at it. All right, wanted to take a look at Workhorse. There's your numbers on Workhorse, up 15%. Boy, that was a nice trade there. 27 up to, that's $1.50. So it's about a 5-hour trade in that move long. And then there's Luckin just kind of chilling. So, all right, let's go back over to the main screen, and we'll close with the difference between the IPO and direct listing. So again, let's talk IPOs first. So your traditional before 2020, right? Because the direct listings happened, but 2020 really brought the direct listing to the forefront. And it was largely Palantir that got everybody interested in it. So let's talk IPOs first. IPOs are traditional IPO from the 80s, where you pay an investment bank literally millions, if not 100 million. And largely that's, you pay them through shares. By the way, you don't just stroke a check. So it's free to you, kind of like refinances are free because the 3 to 10,000 that you're paying in fees is wrapped into the loan. You don't see it. So free. But these IPOs are peeling off a huge chunk of shares to the investment bank. So think a Goldman Sachs or a JP Morgan that is out there and taking the roadshow. So you have the IPO team at the investment bank puts together the slide deck, and they go out to all of the big investors, the upper tier of investors, and they start getting people to commit to shares. Well, if that flows down, for us to participate, it's either, I have to, they don't approach me directly because I'm a small fish. So why would they talk to me? But they will talk to Schwab and TD Ameritrade, and Schwab and TD Ameritrade reaches out to all of the small fish like me, says how many shares you want. And then we all say, okay, this is how many shares I want, or how many dollars worth. It's not actually shares. That goes up, they make that request, and they either get allocated or they don't a certain number of shares, and they cascade that down. So that's how an IPO kind of works. So when it trades, you immediately have the shares. There's not that bucket that we talked about, like the bucket of water, and then it all, just flows into the market. As soon as an IPO lists and starts trading, everybody's got the shares. So somebody has to be selling the shares for somebody else to buy them. A little different with the direct listing. They hold the shares, and then as people buy the shares at the direct listing price, then they get fed into the market, and then eventually the market starts with this trading back and forth. So that's my layman's explanation. Let's go ahead and take a look at what they say. Yep. Company looking there. There's also the SPAC option, which has been going on for years, but it kind of got popular last year's. Okay, underwriters of the IPO, they try to figure out the share price. They charge a huge commission for this work, and they set the price. A direct listing, you set the price, but it's kind of the move. With an IPO, you're trying to set the price higher, right? Because everybody's already got their shares in hand. With a direct listing, it's almost the move to set it a little bit lower so you can feed everybody in, and then when it goes higher, it's like everybody wins. So it's like a good deal thing. If the stock price is going to end up at 30 anyway, why not let folks buy at 10 and get the gain out there? You don't really gain anything as the company. Your shares are going to end up being worth whatever the market says they're worth anyway, so you don't need to set them higher, right? So it's kind of a goodwill sort of thing. Okay, for companies that, again, lockup period, if you participate in an IPO and you get those shares, generally you can't sell for 3, 6, 9 months, whatever the lockup period is. The direct listing, it basically goes out on the open market. There's no safety net to ensure that you could dump all your shares, right? So if you are the direct listing company, again, this is where folks are either becoming multimillionaires or billionaires off of these direct listings when they take their company and make them public. A lot of folks want to dump those shares and get the dollar bill, y'all, and not have to, and not worry about it. In an IPO, you can't do that. In a direct listing, you can. Maybe that's what happened with Palantir. I don't know. Okay, direct listing is also known as direct placement or direct public offerings. Again, direct listing is really what you're going to hear me talk about. There's a 4-minute video on the IPO if you want to know more about that. 3 to 7% they're saying for the underwriters of the IPO. But again, if it's $1 billion IPO, that's millions, if not 100 million. Okay, the business sells shares directly to the public. That's that bucket of shares, and those basically flow out. No new shares are issued. So once the water's out of the bucket and it flows out to the open market, that's when you're going to see the huge price action there. All right, I think that's it for what I'm going to talk about this morning. So thanks again for checking in, and we will check back with you guys tomorrow morning. Have a good one. Bye.